another Testimony Tuesday around here, and it's one that I really don't know a whole lot about either. So we are going to be shocked and probably tear up, and I didn't even get my tissues. We're going to learn all about Miss Katie Fisher together. So come in, and of course, if you're catching the replay, use that comment, use the chat to give her some words of encouragement, and maybe you'll be able to commiserate with something that she's about to share with us. So the whole idea with today on this Tuesday is how God is in all of the details. And the thing is, in the moment, we don't often see that, right? Like we cannot see clearly. And many of you might be in that pit. You might be in the thick of it. But gosh, hindsight truly is 2020. And when you see just everything that unfolds afterwards, you realize that God truly is in everything. So we have Katie Fisher with us today to tell us just how all of the details have come full circle for her. And so Katie, just tell us, who are you, where you're from, get us started.
Yes, I'm Katie Fisher. I'm from a small town, Missouri. And this journey kind of like unexpectedly happened to me. But like you said, hindsight is 2020. I think the thing that was different for me in this situation is that God was showing me the details as we went through it. And I think he knew that I needed those to make it through it.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you to kind of get personal already, but would you say in that moment, like even right before, we're gonna go all the way back and kind of take us back to where you're healthy, life is good. Would you say that your faith then was pretty strong, or are you kind of saying like, because I was a little bit wishy-washy, God had to really pull me through this?
Well, so I mean, I've been a Christian pretty much my entire life, and definitely in the last 4 years, my faith has definitely done like a complete 180, and I definitely have more of a relationship with God rather than a relationship with like religion, if that makes sense at all. I mean, we always went to church, we did the thing, but like in the last 4 years, like my marriage has changed, my life has changed, my relationship with God has changed, and so I truly have a relationship with him. But I feel like, I don't know, I think he just knew I needed to be seen.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
Because of like maybe what we were hearing, I think he knew that like the only way she's going to keep fighting is if she knows that I'm here.
Oh, that's a word. It's so easy to give up, or just like, this is my time, take me now. I don't want to go through this.
Sorry, my dogs are going to go crazy for a second.
Okay, so let's go back there.
Okay.
So, and Katie was telling me on like, this is pretty fresh. She's still kind of processing it all. And we've all been in those situations where we're just like, what just happened to me? You know, we were drugged through it. We're on the other side. So Katie, let's just go on back. So like,
so I'm actually going to go back even further. And I didn't like put these pieces into place until after, and I looked back and saw, but in October, November of 2022, I got tennis elbow.
Okay.
And you would not believe it, but this is actually what like started this whole thing. So I got tennis elbow from crocheting too much, and ended up having to get treatment for that tennis elbow. And I did 3 rounds of high dose steroids to treat this tennis elbow over that year, over 2020. And this is going to be important, like come full circle. I know it doesn't make sense right now, but this is going to be important. So 2022, I get tennis elbow. The doctor is treating me with high dose steroids. He treats me 3 different times throughout 2022. What was it? June? No. Yes. No. Okay. October of 2023. He says, Katie, we can't do this anymore. Like, you have to go see a specialist. We have like something more is going on beyond what I can treat. So I do that.
What was your symptoms with that? Is it like lost elbow or?
Oh my gosh. It was like severe pain all the way down my arm.
Okay.
Here. So like to the point that like it hurt to move my arm. It hurt to like extend it. It hurt to type. And I even had pain all the way up into my shoulder. Now it was like a challenging thing because they x-rayed it and they're like, there's nothing. So they did an MRI and there's still nothing. But you have all of the symptoms of tennis elbow. And so they ended up wanting to do this thing called PRP. It's where they like extract your blood, spin it, and then like inject it back into you. Well, in order to do that, I had to like stop taking all anti-inflammatory drugs. So I had pretty much been living on Advil for like a good year and a half, 2 years, which is not good for you. But I had pretty much been living on it. And so I had to stop taking that for 5 weeks leading up to the PRP injection, and then 5 weeks after. So comes the day that I'm finally able to get this PRP injection, and everything's fine. Like, yes, like, did my life stink, like being in so much pain for 5 weeks? Yes. And I'm surprised my family still wanted to put up with me. But so I get it. Everything's fine. And then the next morning I wake up and I like have this pain in my leg where it feels like I've like pulled a muscle. And I know you're thinking like these two things do not correlate at all. Like, what is going on? But I have bulging disc in my back. And so I thought, okay, like they're acting up because I haven't been able to take the Advil. Like, they're used to my body on the Advil. They're like, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
By 4:00 that day, I couldn't walk. Like, the pain was so severe, I couldn't walk. And so my husband takes me to our local hospital, and they're like, it's going to be 5 hours before we can get you in. And I'm in like excruciating pain. I'm literally like bawling in the emergency room, waiting room. So he's like, we're not waiting 5 hours. He takes me to another local hospital where my doctors actually are, but it's like 30 minutes away. They get me right in. They cannot figure out like what is going on. And finally it comes down to they're going to have to give me like a steroid injection because that's the only way they can get it under control, which is going to then undo what they just did to my elbow. But at that point I was like, okay, I don't even care. Like, do what you gotta do. But in the span of this, one of the things that they did was a CT scan. So they scanned me from like mid belly button to my hips, like that much on my body. And they come back in and they're like, you have to see your doctor tomorrow. And I'm like,
that's
okay.
all
Yeah. Well, so they said there showed some enlarged lymph nodes on your scan. Don't Google it, but you need to make an appointment to see your doctor. And like, my husband had my phone because he didn't bring his. And I was like, give me my phone. As soon as they walked out, I was like, give me my phone. And so of course, like, you look it up and it's like cancer, lymphoma, all of these, like, I mean, cancer was pretty much like the only option. So the next day I see my doctor, and he said, we need to get another CT scan done right away. But he was still optimistic that like maybe I had an infection, maybe there was something else going on. And he was primarily focused on like the root cause of this, like my hip, like why is your hip hurting so badly? And so he did CTs of my entire body. And they literally called me back the next morning and said, you need to come in. And I was like, well, I can't. Like, I have to work, you know? And they're like, no, you need to come in. And I was like, okay, well, I'll come in, you know. They're like, we have a 2:40. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll do that. So we were late, like almost 20 minutes late. And they still saw me. And then I knew, like, really bad.
Right.
You're still willing to see me when I'm 20 minutes late.
Yeah,
for my
doctors don't do that.
Something is really wrong. And so I went in and he said, Katie, I'm sorry, but you have cancer.
And is the same doctor the whole time?
The same doctor the whole time.
Okay.
And he's my primary physician. So he's like saw me. He was the one that treated my tennis elbow. He's the one that like, he's my primary doctor. And so he said, Katie, I'm sorry, you have cancer. And we were trying, like, we're like, how do you know, you know? And like, how are you coming to this conclusion? Like, what information do you have?
Yeah.
And so he's like, the radiologist report says, you know, that you have cancer. I had like an enlarged spleen, and what they could see on the CT scan looked like I had a 4-centimeter mass in my right lung. And then the lymph nodes everywhere in my entire body were lit up. So then from there, it just started this like crazy whirlwind but I kind of want to back up for a second so I can show you how God was like truly in the details. And I kind of forgot this part of it. So I know we're kind of like backtracking. But in June of 2023, before all this had happened, an incident happened. And I, as a mom, was like, I need to get to the bottom of this before I leave my kids. And that same year, October of 2023, I was supposed to be going to a conference in LA. And it was going to be a week. I had the hotel booked. I had my conference paid for. I had our tickets. Me and my husband were both going. But I was like, this situation kind of, as a mom, like shook me. There was allegations made that something happened in my house. And I was like, what? Like, anybody who knows my character, like, knows that would never happen. But as a mom, I'm like, I have to, like, dig into this a little bit more. And so I canceled my conference because I didn't know what was going to come of it. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I just wanted to make sure that, like, if my kids needed me, that I was going to be able to be there for them. And so I canceled all of it. When I was still able to get a full refund for the conference, a full refund for my hotel, a full refund for my flight, everything.
Okay.
So, and that whole situation like ended up working out, but it took an entire year, but it worked out. But in that moment, it was like that was terrifying to me. Like, for something to happen that could potentially affect like my children as a mom, like that shook me to my core. And really, I think that situation did make me grow closer to the Lord, because I'm like, can I trust everyone in my life? And like, am I doing the best job I can as a mom to protect my kids?
Yeah.
And that's like my main priority. And so in the moment, like that situation felt like the devil was just trying to attack us. And like, I didn't know why it was happening. And that conference was supposed to be the 12th through the 17th of October.
Okay.
And that's like super important, because now this point that I had just lead you guys up to, we're at the, so that was the 9th of October is when they told me that. So the 9th of October, right? So they're like, the doctor is terrified. He's like, I've never seen like it this badly. Like, we have to get you in. So they literally like took me over to the hospital and started doing blood work and started getting all the tests ordered. And it was just like one thing after another. So literally 2 days after that, they call me and they're like, can you come up for a bone biopsy? And I'm like, like, I haven't even had time to process this. Like, at this point, we hadn't told our kids because we didn't know what was happening. And my kids are older. They're 16 and 17. So, like, I knew if I told them, I needed to know what was going on. I couldn't just, like, tell them, oh, hey, they think da-da-da-da-da. I needed to have, like, certain answers. And so they send me in for the bone biopsy, and the bone biopsy guy refuses to do it. He said, I don't think that you have bone cancer, because that's what they were thinking, is that the reason for the pain in my hip was bone cancer. And he said, I don't think you have bone cancer. I think you have an inflammatory disease. He said, you need to see oncology right away, but I'm not doing this. And so he was the first person that like had mentioned that there was like even a second option for what they were seeing.
Yeah.
But he didn't like tell us like what he thought I had or like what this could even be or anything like that. So he tells me, I'm not doing the bone biopsy. I don't think you have bone cancer. You know, like, go see oncology. Well, oncology refused to see me without a biopsy.
Oh gosh.
So yeah. So, and then the lymph node biopsy guy refused to see me until I had a PET scan done. So I had the PET scan done, and the PET scan is done on October 14th, which is the day that I was supposed to be at conference.
Yeah.
So I do the PET scan, and it literally like lights up everywhere. So now, not only am I being told that I have cancer, but now I'm being told I have stage 4 cancer because they said it had metastasized to my bones.
That's true.
So I have the PET scan done, and then the biopsy guy is like, okay, we can get you in. We know exactly where we're going to take it from. And they do. And so we go into his office.
Is this all the same day right now? Like, you're just
So I had the PET scan done and I had the biopsy done the next day.
Okay. Still, you're just running around a hospital like.
Literally, it was like every day. And let me tell you, I forgot this part. So on the day of their PET scan, my husband and I had went to the local Mexican buffet, and we're sitting there. And then that's the first moment I realized that God had used that situation in June to financially take care of us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would have lost all that money.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been able to go.
Yeah. Amazing.
So we were sitting there at the buffet and I said, oh my gosh, I am supposed to be at that conference right now. And I said, had I not canceled it in June when all of that stuff happened, I would have been out $5,000+ right now.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah. And I think that was like, I literally sat there and cried, Shauna. Like I had not cried up to this point with all the things that they told me. Really like cried, but like in that moment, I was just like, I was sitting in that booth and just bawling because I'm like, that seemed like such a tough time in my life, like such a hard situation. But to look now and see that God used that hard thing to protect me and like take care of me where I'm at right now, it just like, I don't know. I never felt so loved and seen.
That is so good because what what some people want to say is, why would God ever allow that to happen?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you're seeing the hindsight, it was actually protection. It was not to drag you through, deep waters for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was used to like strengthen our faith too, because I don't think that like the point that we were at prior to that, like I don't think my husband like would have had the strength and the faith like that we needed to get us through that, because I've always been like the one stronger in my faith. And at this point in our journey, he was stronger in his faith than I was. And I
gotta be the rock. I gotta be the rock.
Well, like even leading up to this, like he was the one that was stronger in his faith because of this whole journey. I mean, it was his character that was being attacked, not mine. And so that strengthened his faith. And I think that was in preparation of what was to come. Yeah. So the CT scan, the PET scan, the bone biopsy, they all happened within like a week.
Okay.
So it wasn't like day after day after day, but like it also was. I mean, it also kind of was.
Like
there wasn't and everything was like this through this entire journey. Like it was literally like, today you have this, and then tomorrow you have this, and then this, and then this. There wasn't really like many days that there wasn't something.
Okay.
So I had the PET scan, I believe it was like on a Thursday. And then I had the the lymph node biopsy, I think it was like on a Tuesday. So it wasn't a very short period. I think when they saw that, I don't know, the thing that like gets me is like how fearful like the doctors were along the way. Like that's the thing I think that still sticks with us to this day, is like how fearful they were and how fearful they were like making us.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, hey, like, let's get to the root of this. This is what, like, these are the facts. They were just automatically like, this is what you have. We're like full steam ahead down this track. There was no like diverting from that until we got to the lymph node biopsy guy. And this guy and his nurse will forever be ingrained in my heart. And I don't know, still to this day, I'm like, I don't know how I could ever repay them for what they did for our family that day. But so he comes in, he like prepares us for the biopsy, all this, and he's like getting ready to walk out, and he like turns back around and he looks at us and he said, I know this doesn't make sense and nobody's probably mentioned it to you, but he said, I think you have this inflammatory disease called sarcoidosis. He said, has anybody brought it up? And I'm like, no. And so he starts telling us about it. And he said, you don't meet the demographic and your symptoms don't really make sense. Because guys, I had not been sick. like I had no symptoms. So nothing would tell you that I'm like sick or have something wrong with me. I had gained like 40 pounds, but that was really the only thing. But I thought, okay, like I'm probably just like in perimenopause, whatever. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
Struggle for all of us. You know?
Yeah. That was really the only symptom that I was like aware of.
Okay.
So he started telling us about it. He said, would you mind if I like do an extra like punch in your lymph node to pull like for this? And we're like, yes, absolutely. And so of course my husband's like starts looking it up and he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, oh my gosh, like that could be it. That could be it. And that guy gave us so much hope that day, like so much hope. But also, I don't meet the demographic. It doesn't typically occur in white women. It's typically a disease that occurs in African Americans. It doesn't typically occur in women my age. So the chances were like very slim.
Yeah.
Like,
but there's hope.
There's hope. Yeah. So we're like holding on to hope that it's this. And we bring it up to oncology. We bring it up to my doctor and they're like, absolutely not. There's no way. And we're like, okay. And so the biopsy comes back and he said, like, Katie, I am almost 100% certain, like, that you have this. And so I said, okay. I was like, are you certain enough that I can tell my kids? And he said, yes. So I'm like, okay. But now, like, a week later, okay, we have this information now. What do we do with it? So our next step, like in the process, was seeing oncology. And we go to the oncologist's office and she has all of my information. And she says, Katie, like you for sure have cancer. Like for sure. It's stage 4. We're not 100% certain where it's at. We believe it's in your lungs. And so at this point, I'm like, why? Why do you think that I have that? Like, why? Show me the facts. Like, show me the information because I need to know.
Right.
And yeah. And she's like, well, you have an enlarged spleen. You have this mass in your lung and then the size of like your lymph nodes. When you put all that information together, like we're pretty certain that you have it. So she said our next step is going to be a bronchoscopy, like where they go down your throat and get tissue. They were going to get tissue out of my actual lung to like test it.
Okay.
So that brought about like more blood work, more preparation. And we get referred to the pulmonologist, which is like a lung specialist.
Mm-hmm.
He's the person who's going to do my surgery. And he just happened to be someone who graduated with my husband.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we tell him, hey, like, here's what they're telling you, but here's what they're not telling you.
Mm.
And he was really optimistic. So we brought up the like sarcoidosis to him. We're like, we know like this is what they're telling you to look for, but like this is what we think that it is. And he's like, well, why do you think that? And we're like, well, we just think that it is. Like we're holding on to hope here. And so they do the bronchoscopy and it took a week for those results to come back. And I can tell you that was the toughest week of my life.
I bet.
I'm just sitting there thinking, like, how do I leave my kids?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're 16 and 17. Like, how am I going to walk away from, like, how? Like I have to, like, prepare myself to be putting in the fight of my life.
Mm.
But I'm, like, literally felt like I was just, like, trying to fight, but there was no, like, forward motion, if that makes sense.
Well, so it's almost like what am I fighting for? Am I fighting for my life? Am I fighting just to advocate for myself?
Yeah.
Am I fighting for my kids?
Yeah. And I feel like because of that, I did lose so much of my like voice to advocate for myself because I was stuck in this like I don't even know what's going on right now. Like I've literally been told all of these different things and taken like on this like roller coaster. And literally, like, from the time that I went to the emergency room until the time that I had the surgery and got my official diagnosis was a month. I mean, that is, like, a short time period to, like, go through all of these things.
Yes.
And I do have to say, like, during that time, I'm so proud of my kids. Like, each day when we would come home, we would always like pray together as a family. And my kids like truly held it down, like, because we were not here for an entire month. Like, they got up and went to school. They like often like fed themselves dinner because we weren't here. And like, I don't know, just as a mom, like, I'm sad that my kids had to go through that, but like, I'm just so proud of them too.
And
Like,
then it happened at a time that they were old enough to be able to do that.
take care of themselves. Yeah. Yeah. So I have the colonoscopy done, and the results come back, and he says, like, Katie, you have sarcoidosis. And we were ecstatic.
This was
And-
the friend doctor?
Yes, the Fred doctor.
Okay.
So he comes back and he's like, you for sure have it, but I don't know how to treat you.
Mm.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So he's yeah, so he's literally like over there Googling it, you know.
Reassuring.
But and we were so excited, and everybody around us like couldn't understand why we were like in the medical industry, like couldn't understand why we were excited, because they're like, this is also not good. Like, you realize this is not good.
Why are we having a party?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, considering the alternative was stage 4 cancer, like, I'm good with this. Like,
Okay. So because we think, or we know that it is this now, you could completely take cancer off the table?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Praise God.
Because they mimic each other, like, almost identically.
Okay.
So, sarcoidosis is an inflammatory disease that causes your body to have like an immune response to something. So they don't know what that immune response is, and it's different for everyone. So that's why it's really difficult to treat, because it could be something environmental. It could be something like that just like triggered your immune system and then it reacted. It could be a food. It could be anything. So it causes your lymph nodes in your body to like swell up. And then it causes the red blood cells and the calcium in your body to like form together. And that's what the mass in my lung was.
Wow.
So they form together and cause these things called granulomas. And so why it's dangerous is because it causes organ damage.
Okay.
So like, had it continued, like, my lung would eventually have like filled with the granulomas, and then I would have, which would have resulted in a lung transplant. For me, it also would have been my spleen. So
Okay.
my spleen and my lung. And then I also have it in my bones, which is why it lit up everywhere and why they thought I needed bone biopsy.
Gotcha.
Um,
You were saying you didn't really have symptoms. So like, even I'm thinking your lungs, like you would have trouble breathing, or, but you
No.
never had any of that.
So the only symptom that once like things started to click for me, the only symptom that like still to this day that I have was mucus. And I thought that I had allergies. Like, we live in freaking Missouri. Like, I thought that I had allergies, but like, it should have registered in like November, December of the previous year when I was taking allergy medicine in November and December.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Like, it should have triggered something.
Yeah. Missouri's not that bad. No.
But like, we also have dogs, and like at the time we had birds, and so I was just like, maybe like I'm just allergic to something, like in my own home, and it never was like really bad enough that I was like, oh, like I should probably go see a doctor about this.
Right.
So like, even looking back, that was the only symptom that I ever had. But like, don't forget about the tennis elbow. So the tennis elbow actually wasn't tennis elbow. It was sarcoidosis in my elbow.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was in 2022. That doctor giving me steroids, which is actually the treatment that they use to treat sarcoidosis, slowed the progression of my sarcoidosis.
Okay. Dang.
Yeah.
So now you're just back on that.
So okay. The other thing that like, if you don't think that God loves you, there's only 5 sarcoidosis specialists in the entire United States, and one of them is at KU.
Stop.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
And you said, or maybe you don't know why, but you said white females, especially about your age, like it's kind of very rare. Did they ever say why it's not as common?
it just, I don't know. They've never said why, like why it's not common so even all of my appointments that I've gone to, I have typically only been the only white person in there. Like, yeah. I don't know. My husband did an ancestry DNA test because he's like, there has to be something going on here.
Oh, shoot.
Which there wasn't.
Online.
But there wasn't. I think it was just, I don't know. Yeah, that's why nobody ever looked for it, because I didn't meet the demographic. I didn't meet the norm. I didn't have the symptoms that they normally have. Typically, you have, a very bad cough. Some of them, so there's different kinds of sarcoidosis. There's like pulmonary, cardiac, and neurological. So at the time, I only had pulmonary, which was in my lung. But then I also had my bones, and that was just from having it for so long. It eventually, because it's depleting your body of calcium and using that calcium in other ways, it affects your bones.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So they treated me with the doctor, who originally diagnosed me, my husband's friend. He treated me with high-dose steroids for 5 months because that's how long it took me to get into the specialist. And that is like the beginning stages of treatment. And I think that was honestly for me harder. Like it messed me. It messed me up like in so many ways. I told him, I was like, I don't do well on them. I'm not a nice person. I'm not in a good place. Like, and very mentally, like it was very hard for me to stay in a good headspace as I was going like through that. And I know people are like, oh, it's just steroids. But like when you've just been through something like traumatic like that and you're still trying to like process it, and then they give you something that like steroids that make you feel the way they do, like it's a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that kept me, the ladies at my Bible study, they were like amazing and truly were like what kept me seeing God like in the little moments of things. And he used like that Bible study to continue to show me like, I care about you as much as I care about Zacchaeus, for example. Like we were talking about, how God was coming to town. I don't even know where he was coming to, but he was coming through and he saw Zacchaeus in the tree, and he stopped everything that he was doing to tell Zacchaeus to come down, that he wanted to spend time with him. And that's how I felt like in this moment. There was all these other things going on, but he's like, I see you and I am taking care of you, and I'm making sure that all of these little details like may seem like a lot and may seem like they don't all come together, but they're all for your good.
That's so
Even
good.
though they don't feel like it at the time, like they're all for your good and they're all for your protection. Yeah.
That's so good.
So yeah, I'm still in treatment now. It's hard. So they're treating me exactly like they would cancer, which is like difficult because then people also think that I have cancer.
Yeah.
But I'm taking a low dose chemotherapy. And that is, so I have no it like depletes your immune system, and then that allows your body to like recover, I guess. I don't know. But that's kind of working, kind of not working. So it's working for some things, but not working for others. So now I have inflammation around my heart, which is new. I did not have that prior. Like I did not have that in November. And then I have a restricted airway now. So, and that was just like May. So a month ago. But the mass in my lung is shrinking. My lymph nodes are shrinking. So we just have to find a plan that doesn't involve steroids to control the other. So I'm trying to use like environment, food, exercise, things like that. There's no like proven research that those things work.
Okay.
But I'm like, how can they not work?
Right. It came from God. It has to.
Yeah. How could they not work? So I'm trying to use those in correlation to the medication. But I think that the treatment has almost been worse than the journey of finding out. Yeah. It just it's mentally hard.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's not a true end in sight right now.
No. Yeah.
And that has to be heavy on the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And because when I went in May, she said, I feel really optimistic that like we'll be able to stop the medication because the medication makes me sick. And typically it's only for a day. And so I'm like, okay, but mentally every week I have to prepare myself like to take the medicine and then be sick. And that's a lot.
No one likes that feeling.
Yeah. But when I first started it, I was like, okay, you can do anything for a short time period. So at that moment, it was about 4 or 5 months. So I was like, I can do anything until May. Like I can do anything until then. Like all I was thinking in my mind is I have to get until then. And when my scans came back, she's like, things are looking good. Like everything's shrinking. And then I was having heart palpitations. So they did a cardiac something like EKG. And then that's when the inflammation around my heart came back. And she said, okay, we have to adjust. We have to pivot. And now I'm just like have until September.
Okay.
And we're going to review again. And so I just have to keep on reminding myself, like, I have to just give it all I have until then. Like everything that I have to just like pour everything that I have into it. But this is also my son's senior year. And so like, this is hard. And that's why I told her, I was like, I don't want to be sick. Like, I don't want to be sick. So just trying to like trust God through this process has almost felt more challenging than like trusting him through whether I was going to have cancer or not. And I know that like may sound silly. But I don't know. It's almost like I feel like I know that I'm going to be okay. So it's like feels more challenging, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can feel that for you. You know, it's almost like you're still in the pit, you know, the rock bottom, even though God showed you the light. It's like I'm trying to climb to that light and I just can't seem to fully grasp it.
Yeah.
I can feel that.
I'm trying to get there.
Yes. Now, and you said there are plenty of other there's a little bit of research out there, not necessarily just on white females, but is there testimonies of people out there that have truly overcome this and have no treatments anymore? Do you know?
Yeah, so there is. I feel like they're very few and far in between. And what my doctor has told me is that often, and even my nutritionist has said this as well, is that often people are okay with the treatment, and so they just continue it.
Okay.
But it typically does go into remission.
Okay.
How long it takes you to get into remission and then how long you stay in remission is like dependent. But she said a lot of times, like people don't make lifestyle changes that could potentially help get you into remission and help get you into remission faster. Okay. They typically just take the medication. Yeah. Which is unfortunate. I had to like leave there's a sarcoidosis support group and I was like, this is so discouraging. Like, because, and I know I was like, maybe I can be like, help be positive to them, but a lot of them, it doesn't feel like they want to get better.
Yeah.
And that's my nutritionist. Like one of the things that we're doing is like working on trying to retrain my nervous system. So like doing somatic exercises. And she's like, I know it sounds silly. She said, Katie, but while you're doing this, you just sit there and think my body is healthy. My body is strong. I'm not sick. Like that mindset will help heal your body because it is like, it's an immune response to something that's going on. Like, whether it's your nervous system, whether it's like environmental, whatever it is. So like controlling that immune response, like you can like somewhat be in control of that.
Yeah, gosh, the mind, the brain, it's crazy just how powerful it truly is. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a naturalist in myself. I mean, again, like doctors, whatever, they are needed, but there's definitely something to be said, like you kind of alluded to, that, you know, there's natural remedies out there that there's testimonies of how they really work. This is kind of a side note, but I went down a couple different rabbit holes here recently because the C word is just everywhere, you know, like it just is. It's the next
freely. Like they just around. Like it's no big deal.
Well, like you said, I mean, the doctor was just sure of it, you know, and it's that's one thing to be said about your testimony is that like you had to advocate for yourself and you had to go get, different feedback and I mean, it's different opinions. And so the one rabbit hole I went down was apricot seeds and like how just crazy good that can be for whether you're going through cancer now or, and then just detoxing, whether it's like any sort of detox that truly just gets all the toxins out. And I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, I kind of wish God would have given us some sort of like, owner's manual here about how to survive on this earth with things that he provided. Like, who's going to look at an apricot seed and realize that it can be beneficial? And then I thought, well, he kind of did. He told us not to eat from that one tree, and we did. So he's like, well, forget it. You don't listen anyway.
Yeah. I did kind of like a Whole30 detox. So sugar, wheats, and that was rough. It was tough. But because I was at this point where I was just like, like I'm throwing my hands up, like I don't even know what to do. Like I don't know. Yeah. And I was so like defeated by all of it. When I started working with my nutritionist, who happens to be one of like my clients. And so God put her in my life just like when I needed her. And we started working together in November, which is like so great. So great. Yeah, I didn't even think of that until right now, but we started working together in November. And then, so she's a nutritionist who teaches you how to use food to heal your body. And when we first started working together, I mean, she had to be thinking, what have I gotten myself into? Because I was just in such a bad place that she's like, okay, Katie, like we got to give up soda. We got to find out what's inflaming your body. We got to do da, 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 da. And I'm like, girl, I'm going to go eat a donut. Like I can't mentally deal with this right now. And so she really was like so gentle and so kind with me and just like took it step by step. Like, okay, what do you feel like we could take on this month? And we literally took it like step by step by step by that. And then finally she got me to where I was like, okay, I can do the detox. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yep. Yeah. And I made it to like day 7 and I was like, girl, I cannot do this. And she's like, you can do this. And so we made it through and now I'm like on her full like meal plan, walking. And so we'll see how things look in September. But
that's amazing. Well, we will add you to the prayers for sure. There's just so many things to be said about this one testimony. So many like little nuggets that you can pull.
Yeah.
I mean, my mind is just swirling with all the headlines that it could have been because man, there's just so much. And we energy drinks and donuts and sugary stuff, sodas, like it's just, we go to ball games and we go to the concession stand because that's what we do. And we go out to eat and you get the things because you're celebrating. You eat cake because, it's a fun life to live. But man, our bodies are a temple and there's just something to be said about really, truly trying to take care of it. Not that you didn't, but like, maybe this is kind of a punch in the gut for some people listening too, that like, I don't have cancer that I know of. I don't have the bone disease that I know of.
I forgot about like this part of it. So it was just like a couple months ago. So during this whole journey, we didn't really like tell people because we're like, what do we tell them? Right. So we didn't tell people. Like I didn't even tell my mom until I was going in to have the surgery because I was like, I didn't want to scare my parents. Yeah. So I didn't tell them. So it's probably been like 2-3 months ago, we were talking to some of our friends and we were like telling them about it. And they're like, you guys went through all of this and like, you didn't tell us. And they were mad. Anyways. So we're like telling them about all of it or whatever. And then a couple weeks later, we get a phone call from a mutual friend. My husband does. And he said, I heard your wife has sarcoidosis. They think that I also have sarcoidosis. And they were like getting ready to put his port in. Like he had a surgery scheduled to put his port in because they had also told him that he had cancer. And then our mutual friend told him about my like situation. They took that information back. They tested him for it and it came to find out that he also had sarcoidosis.
Unreal.
And so, yeah.
The whole time you've been talking, I'm sitting here thinking, these testimonies again, like God moves in all kinds of ways. And I'm just thinking like, what if somebody sees this that just got news about cancer and they're like, I'm going to go test this first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't
I
that
know
be?
that's what every time I'm like, please just advocate for yourself. Like, and I wondered because I told my husband at the time, I was like, I just don't understand. I mean, everybody questions why like God lets us go through things. Like, I'm just like, why would I go through this entire journey and then it not be that?
Yeah.
Because that's what I kept on feeling. Like, okay, like I felt like God was like gonna take me through it so then he could use me in some way. But then I'm like, why would he take me through all that and then it not be that?
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
which I'm thankful that it's not that, but I feel like he said, like, I took you through that so you'll know how to support people who are going through that.
Amen. Amen. That's exactly what I was thinking. You have a story,
Yeah.
that's what all of these have been about. They're all completely different and, different trials and tribulations of life. But man, someone's just going to take this and realize, maybe I should ask my doctor about that. Or, I went through something similar. Or I have a story just like Katie and I need to share it to the world too. Like,
Yeah.
this is what being a disciple is all about.
Yeah. I mean, sharing's hard, but like, it's definitely something that the Lord has like called me to do. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yes.
But, yeah. But then he like used my friend to like call me out to get me to do your, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want, but seeing how God like took care of me and protected us. And like, how can you not share that?
Amen. And you're right. It's hard. It's courageous, but it brings up feelings and things that you're like, I've buried those feelings. I'm over it.
Yeah.
And it brings it back up again and it makes you feel all the feelings. But man, you're also letting other people feel those feelings of hope and, God is real and it's going to be okay, even if it's not okay right now.
Yeah. And I think so often we forget, that like, God, when he did miracles in the Bible, like they're so big and they're so elaborate and they're so noticeable, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes we don't realize that he's like still doing miracles in our lives. They're just like in a different way, but like, I mean, other people may not look back and be like, oh, you canceling the conference and getting your money back. Like, how is that a miracle? Well, when you have medical bills, like that $5,000 is a huge impact on that,
Katie's an entrepreneur just like me. It's kind of, it is a little bit of a different world when you can't just rely on calling your employer up and,
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's a part of the story I completely forgot. Like I had gotten medical health sharing insurance in January of that year because my husband has kidney disease and they like his numbers weren't good. And so I was like, we're going to need this year. And so thankfully I had gotten the medical health sharing for him, but I got it for our whole family. And so we were really like, in every way that God could have taken care of us, he took care of us. Like there's so many more details that I didn't even like spread in just for like the purpose of time. But like every vehicle in our family was breaking down, but we were never without one. Like there's just so many things like that God literally took care of every single little thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you allowed yourself to be able to see that. I think that's the difference with some people that they're just in their pit and so they don't see clearly and they can't see clearly. They only see the darkness. They only see the bad things that are happening. And sometimes it's a choice to be able to see, whether it's hindsight or in the moment, that God will carry me through this and there are details there. But so many people I feel like miss that because their mind is just on, this is my pit and this is where I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, because those moments they were what carried me through it without.
Amen. Well, we'll end with this, Katie. I love how you were saying like your Bible study just kind of kept you through that and the stories in the Bible. And I love when I've heard this recently where someone said like, how do you hear from God? Like, how can you just hear from him? They say it's in the small, still voice. And sometimes I like try to be quiet and I still can't always hear from him, And the answer to that was, how do you hear from God? They say, well, open your Bible and read the words in red. And sometimes it's cracking open that Bible and reading some of those stories to realize that, man, I mean, 2,000 years later, we're going through maybe even similar or not so hard things than what we used to go through, and we're still here.
I know in our situation, one of the things I think that gave me the most hope is like often I would wake up at night and my husband would be awake over here reading his Bible. And I think that's one of the things that like gave me the most hope is that like he was clinging to the hope that he found in the Father.
That's
Like,
so
even though I wasn't strong enough to do it, like, I don't know, like just waking up and seeing him like over there, just like giving it everything that he had, you know, to the Lord, for me was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Woo! Well, Katie, I appreciate you so much. My gosh, like I said, it's courageous. It's really bold of people to get on here and share stories like this, but I just know that this is going to land on the feet and the ears and the eyes of someone that needs to hear it today. So, Katie, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Hang tight for just a second. We'll see you guys. Think as always, and don't forget, share this out and leave Katie a little comment in the notes. I'm sure that she'll come back and read all the things you guys have to say. We'll talk to you later. See you guys.